What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal podcast. This is episode number 115. I am your host, Armando Marsal. You can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando underscore Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. Before I jump into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all. Remember, if you're enjoying the podcast, if you're enjoying the content, if you're enjoying the show, please make sure you follow, rate, review, wherever it is you're consuming the podcast. It does go a long way. Anything you want me to discuss on this podcast, email that to mindmarsal@gmail.com, and I'll make sure we'll touch base on those topics here. Remember, you can also find the show now on YouTube at the Mind of Marsal channel. You know what time of the week it is. It is Friday, which means I got my guy Chris Rose on, and we are going to look at this weekend's NFL slate and break it all down. Chris, how's it going, brother?
What's up, man? Lucky 115, huh, man? You're rolling with all these episodes. You get a lot.
Yeah, man, we're rolling along here. I did have one earlier in the week. Rich Valedo came on. We recapped week one. We dove into some waiver wires and things like that, and kind of just give our overall thoughts. Fridays, you and I always talk DFS. We break down the slate. We look at matchups we like. Week one last week. I think there was some things that were expected that we saw, and then I think we also saw like a lot of slow starts. And this is why you and I preached, right? Like, hey, you don't sit there and unload your clip in week one because there are going to be slow starts. There are going to be, players that are a little rusty. There are players that are returning from injury, and teams are kind of slowing them, easing them into things. Any major takeaways for you from week one?
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys. I'll tell you, we were on the right teams, just the wrong guys. To be honest with you, there's some guys that
Yeah.
should have had big games that didn't. I mean, one of the guys that I had at like 2% ownership was Juwan Johnson, who had he caught that ball in the end zone when he was coming down, the ball got knocked out. He would have had a monster game. Drake London, he had a touchdown in the end zone three times in his hands. He dropped the ball. So I do think that there were some plays that we were right on. I mean, just great calls. I mean, but we were just like I said, right team, wrong player. Um, Other than that, I mean, it was expected to have some slow coming out of the gate with Cincinnati was the biggest, probably the biggest surprise for me that Cincinnati played as poorly as they did. Guys, Burrow, Chase. I do think the one bright spot was Chase Brown. Just the volume alone, he's going to do something.
Yeah, I agree. I like the volume I saw. And I that was my biggest takeaway, right? Like that was my thing that I said last week where it's like let's not focus too much on the bottom line for some of these players. Let's kind of focus on what kind of roles they had in week one and then carry that into week two, right? Like I know that there was some struggles. Like, Calvin really had a tough day, right? But he was targeted a lot. It was a tough matchup. You and I talked about him. He was someone we liked. The opportunities were actually there for him. It's not like they were not there for him. They were there for him. It's just the production wasn't, right? Like we saw that with a lot of the players in week one. Or not a lot, some of the players in week one. For me, I'm not too concerned about, the actual production for some of these guys. We talked about Genty. You and I talked about Genty last week. He had a ton of opportunities. He didn't produce. He scored, sure. He didn't pay off his price tag, right? But the opportunities, the process was right. Like at the end of the day, the process was right. The results were not. The process was right. And this is the part of the stage where if you start shifting away from your process, you're going to start making mistakes. And this is why I wanted to open up the podcast with this because I don't want anyone to be reactive of last week and be like, no, let's not chase production. Let's remember to chase opportunities. Like that is what we want. And now there's also opportunities that I think are here to stay, and also those opportunities that are kind of don't chase those opportunities. And we'll talk about that here because there are a couple players that had some opportunities last week. I don't anticipate will be the same this week. So, but overall, I think it was a good week. We talked about Daniel Jones. He had himself a big day. Michael Pittman was cheap. You and I talked about him on Sunday morning. We talked about Tyler Warren being that tight end for us that we kind of liked. He had a big day as well. So like we were on some of these things and we're going to continue to, dig into the slates and continue to be on these things, week in and week out. So just trust the process, everyone. Like don't worry about if your guy didn't have the biggest day. If the opportunities were there and the execution was not, that's okay. It's going to happen. It's the NFL. There's a lot of variance. So just keep that in mind here, Chris. Did you watch last night's game by any chance? Did you catch Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, so I was in Chicago, just outside of Chicago, last night. Is so everyone knows, I just flew in. I'm literally in my airplane clothes right now. But I did watch a little bit of it last night, and I'll tell you what, I'm a little nervous about the Packers being in the NFC North. Um, they look good overall. They're not real dominant. They're not. It's weird because they're not a dominant team. They just do the things the right way, and I think LaFleur has this team in a very good working as a team essentially. So, yeah, I'm a little worried with them. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be dominant because losing Jaden Reed now, what is it, collarbone that he broke early in the game. So, I don't trust the passing game, but it's impressive how good they've been the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I think their offense, I don't think they have a true standout. Like I think Jordan Love's playing great, right? I think Josh Jacobs is a really good running back. But when you look at this receiving group, you look at like their tight end Tucker Kraft, very talented, but like they don't have that elite, wideout or that elite pass catcher that I think, is a difference maker. But they do have a good collective group, right? And I think that's important. They have a good young collective group here. For me, what's impressive is that defense. Like I defense wins championships, right? Like they are built for that. They are built for that. That is an impressive unit. I mean, Jaden Daniels had no time. Um, the fact that they were able to bring in and out like some a talent like Michael Parsons in and out, and not be on the field every single snap. That's a huge edge as a defense because you have a rested beast like coming out and fucking attacking the offense. So that to me is the very impressive part. Like this looks like a special defense. The Vikings is like, I mean, I'm gonna say this, like the Vikings also have a phenomenal like this is gonna be a very difficult division. Like it's a very tough division. The Bears look good, and I think when you look at everything, for me, they're probably and I'm not saying they're bad, they're the weakest link in this division, and they're a good fucking football team. So, like, I really do feel like this is going to be a tough division. Wouldn't be surprised if we got a couple of, teams, in the playoffs from this division. I think it's going to be a tough one. I was very impressed with that defense. So I had the text from a buddy of mine saying, man, Parsons is just an animal. Yeah, he is an animal, but you incorporate him with such a talented group already, and it just becomes even tougher to, when you're an offense. So, um, I'm looking forward to watching this group, man. I was very, very impressed with the way they played. Obviously in week one, they also played very well. And I think that's here to stay, man. So I was very impressed. I think this offense is good. They had a lot of good opportunities. I mean, they had some when you look at they took advantage of all the seams, and it was a perfect. I don't want to say perfect. It was as good as a game as I could see a coach on Thursday night there. So I was very impressed with the all around performance. But that defense for me, man, it is stellar, like stellar, stellar, stellar. Um, but yeah, on to week two, Chris. And you and I do this each and every week. And as usual, dude, we'll be doing position by position. We'll go quarterback. We'll talk about matchups we like. We'll go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. We'll chat on defense. And then at the end of the show, guys, you definitely will get a bet as well as our survivor pool picks with our thoughts of survivor pool this week. Chris, let's dive into the quarterback position. And unlike last week, this week we do have multiple quarterbacks, the high end quarterbacks on the slate. We got Josh Allen, we got Lamar Jackson, we got Jalen Hurts, and I always cluster Joe Burrow with these guys. Joe Burrow's also on the slate. Are you paying up at the quarterback position this week? And if so, which one of these names is truly popping out at you?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to end up paying up, to be honest with you. The real only pay up that I wrote in my article was Josh Allen, just given the matchup against the Jets, and just seeing you know just seeing what happened last week. So for me, if you're going to play somebody, if you're going to pay up for someone, it's all cash game for me. It would be Josh Allen. There's so many cheaper guys that I like that I'm just probably not going to get there.
Yeah, for me, look, I look at this, it's very simple for me. You got Josh Allen, and I look at him as a matchup proof quarterback. He's 7,100. I think that's very affordable. I think you're going to see him closer to that 8K range sooner than later. And when I have a quarterback who just, I mean, Baltimore has a good team. Like they're a good defense. This is not a pushover defense. This is a Super Bowl contending roster. Like that's what the Baltimore Ravens is. And when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen just fucking putting the beating on them, it doesn't matter who they play. The Jets have a solid defense. There's no denying that. But for me, I'm looking at Josh Allen. It doesn't matter who he plays. He's always going to be in play. I don't know if I'm going to get up there myself, but he gives you that. Him and I think Lamar Jackson and I think Jalen Hurts all fall in the same category, which is why I think they're all priced within $300 of each other. The rushing upside that they provide gives you that solidified floor on a week to week basis. And there's so much upside, so much ceiling. And when you look at this, neither of them have super elite matchups by any means, but I look at Josh Allen, it's like, dude, this guy is going to give me the highest floor, the highest ceiling of any quarterback right now. Like I just see it that way. And yeah, I'm okay with any of these guys. I'm not gonna talk anyone out of playing any of these three guys. I'm personally not gonna go up here this week. I don't think I'm gonna land here. I usually do one lineup. Sometimes I'll do three. If I end up doing three, maybe I'll have some exposure here. Maybe, but it's again, it's not. I'm not prioritizing, and this is more GPP and cash because I do think you take that floor and you move on. But in GPP, I don't think I'm prioritizing that high end, those three at least, in my tournaments. I will say, for me, I think Joe Burrow is kind of where I'm at if I'm paying up in tournaments. Like I feel like this is a situation where their defense is just legit garbage. Like the Bengals defense is garbage. I expect the Jaguars to put up points here, right? And in return, I think Burrow's going to have to put up points. They struggled immensely in in the second half of week one against the Browns. Didn't look good. You mentioned it, that was a surprise to you. It was a surprise to me as well. I think they're going to have to pick up the pace here, right? Like, I think they're going to have to pick up the pace here. I think they're going to have to show more life offensively because it's truly what's going to win them games. Their defense is not going to win them games. So for me, I look at Joe Burrow and I'm like, all right, it's going to have to be a Joe Burrow week. And I think this is the week that they kind of get going. So I'm expecting a big game out of Joe Burrow. And that's kind of where I'm going to be at if I'm paying up. And I'm not saying he's a core play. He's not a core play for me. But that's kind of where I'm going to be at if I'm paying up at the position. But then if I don't go there, there's another guy right below him that I know you like a lot that I also like here. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about Kyler Murray and why you're in on him this week?
Yeah, I just think it's just a really good spot for him. This passing game I've been talking about all offseason and people just undervaluing Kyler Murray in the passing game. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 21 completions, and another 38 rushing yards on the ground. Just the dual threat ability is so dangerous in DFS. He's able to escape. He's able to keep drives alive, and this is what I think is going to happen is Carolina's going to have to try to stop the run. We saw Benson and Murray both. I'm not Benson and James Conner both look good last week, and we knew that Benson was going to get mixed into this. But was saying that when they have to, if they're going to have to fix or focus on the run, that's going to open the pass game even more. With my favorite guy this season is probably just going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. You know, the connection is there. The price tag is there. The combination of Murray and Harrison Jr. at what 11K, maybe 11.9, I think it is total for those two on DK. It's tough to pass up.
Yeah, I think it's a very good stacking situation. Um, I think you want exposure to Arizona, right? One way or another, whether it's through the air, through the ground. I definitely think you want exposure to Arizona this week. I think that they're a really good offense. And I agree with you. Last week we were on this combination, and it worked out for us. Martin Harrison scored a touchdown, pretty good results there. I didn't, I mean, he didn't set the world on fire, but it was a good game. So I agree with you. I like this combination. I like Murray. I think he falls into that safe floor, high upside category as well, like you mentioned. At a cheaper cost, maybe doesn't have the same ceiling as some of the other quarterbacks, which is fine. But he's also, a little bit cheaper as well. So I'm in on him as well this week. I'm with you there. From Murray, right? Like I feel like there's a significant drop off, right? Like I feel like there's a bucket of quarterbacks like Mahomes. I'm not really there. Bo Nix, I'm not really there. Goff. Mm, Prescott, you can talk me into Prescott, but I'm more on the Fields section. Like if I'm dropping down Fields, right? Like we saw it firsthand last week, and you and I, full disclosure, transparency, you and I were concerned about the matchup against the Steelers. That did not hold him back, right? That did not hold him back. He had two rushing touchdowns. He had one through the air. Um, and for me, I look at what he was able to do, 72.7% completion rate. I think that this was a very good showing for for Justin Fields, and I think that's here to stay. This is a much better matchup here, a game that I expect they're going to be playing catch up in. So I think he's going to have to do both work through the air and through the ground. And I'm in at 5,700. Like until Fields doesn't go up in price, I think at this point we've seen the rushing. He attempted 12 runs last game. 12 runs. That's running back material. Like you're talking about a running back
Yep.
material, right? So he attempted 12 runs last week, 48 rushing yards, two rushing touchdowns. A lot of that came in the red zone, sure. But that's the kind of upside. You have 29.52 DK points at 5,700. Count me in. Like this is not fool's gold. I don't think this is full gold. I think this is here to stay. He was someone that was very bullish going into the season. Someone that one of my highest owned quarterbacks in best balls. Like this is what we expected with Justin Fields. And you surround him with good weapons here, and he's capable of producing. So I'm super in on Justin Fields this week. This is why I have trouble like paying up at the position because I'm getting a what $1,400 discount, and I'm not saying he is Josh Allen by any means. But I'm saying you're getting 25 plus fantasy point upside at 5,700. Count me in. I'm in on Justin Fields this week. I absolutely love what I saw, and I'm going to continue riding this wave until the price goes up or it just derails. But I don't think it's going to derail. What are your
I don't think
thoughts
it.
there?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to derail at all. I mean, that was a tough matchup, and to the point where I got pretty much yelled at from my son because I told him not to play Garrett Wilson because it was a tough matchup, and I didn't trust Justin Fields. So my son was pretty pissed off at me to say the least last week. Um, so I don't see a drop off. I just think the again these quarterbacks with dual threat abilities, those are the guys that we want to play. The guy that killed me last week was Bo Nix in my seasonal. I didn't play him in DFS, but I mean the upside, just their ability, and by no means is Justin Fields a great passer. You could tell his mechanics are just so weird. He reminds me of his mechanics are a lot like Cam Newton when he was playing. Um, but it's these guys that they're going to win you GPPs, like Daniel Jones. Like, who expected Daniel Jones to have that negative game? What did he do? He extended, yeah, he extended plays with his legs. It also helps, and we'll touch on this in tight ends. It's in my article this week. The underneath the underneath mismatches for a lot of these quarterbacks are such an easy win to take that if you can realize who are the guys that are getting open and look at Joe Flacco, like the tight end with Harold Fannin, like he was getting mismatch underneath all day long. That's why he had between Fannin and between the tight ends and Dylan Sampson, there was I think there was 21 targets.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to find these quarterbacks that are a dual threat at a good price tag, and then guys that are having those mismatches and winning the mismatches, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. Speaking of dual threat quarterbacks, Drake May is sitting there at 5,200 coming off a bad performance, facing a Miami defense just got embarrassed. And I'll be honest with you, I think that's here to stay. That secondary is trash. Like
Awful.
and then you look at their offense, I don't see them moving the ball much. Like and I think who was it that said I who was it the corner or the safety that said the thing about Tua's first read. I'm losing. I forget who it is now, but he said once you take away Tua's first read, he looks lost. That is 100% true. Like I've been watching him since he stepped in onto the football field here in Miami, and that's been the case since day one. Like you take away his first read, he doesn't know what the hell to do. Defenses are figured that out, and they haven't made an adjustment. And this offensive line is trash, and now you're pressuring this quarterback. So I feel like this is going to be here to stay. Like I feel like this is a bad team. I think this is a team we're going to be picking on all year right now. And Drake May coming off a bad performance. I absolutely love it. 5,200. He's someone that another player that I absolutely love this week. Like he's someone that I'm going to probably be strongly considering as a core play if I don't go Justin Fields. Like kind of that's where I'm at this week. But man, for me, I really like May here in this matchup. He's a dual threat quarterback. Obviously coming off a game in week one against the Raiders, but not overly shocking there, Chris. Another guy that I want to talk about here and get your thoughts on. What are your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence? Like, what are your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence this week against the Bengals? Like, I think pretty clear Bengals defense is not good. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, do you think, Trevor Lawrence could come out and perform well? I think weather was a factor last week. I mean, that game got what was it, like an hour or two delay or something like that? Like because of the weather, there was lightning in the area, rain in the area. Like we talked about that Sunday morning. But do you think this is a bounce back spot for him?
I do. I do. I just I was too much into him last week where I have buyer's remorse on someone like Trevor Lawrence. I do think he turns it around. I do think he plays better. I just don't have him in my player pool. The funny thing is, just looking at my article right now, in my Roses royalty, Drake May is one of my two quarterbacks.
I love May this week, dude. Like for me, the two like when I start my process, I go through everything at the beginning of the week. It's not DFS, it's actual season long, looking at numbers again, and then I kind of shift gears to DFS later in the week. And the first two quarterbacks that stood out to me, the first two were Joe Burrow and Drake May. Like those were the first two that stood out to me. Then obviously Justin Fields is the obvious, I think, but Joe Burrow and Drake May were the first two guys that stood out to me. I'm like two guys that didn't live up to expectations of week one, finding themselves in really good matchups in week two. And in addition, their price remained reasonable. Like that's what stood out to me. So, but yeah, I think Lawrence is a very interesting GPP option this week for the same reason. Like he struggled last week, didn't live up to expectations. I think weather played a role in that, a delay, like that all plays a role into everything. And this is a Bengals defense that I look at as and they're trash. I mean, they allowed 290 passing yards to fucking Flacco last week, bro. Like, you know, um, so yeah, I'm okay with him. Any other quarterback? Before we go, I'm gonna pick your brain on one guy, but any other quarterback that you have here on your list? I'm gonna say two things about two different quarterbacks after though.
The only I just have notable guys. I have Daniel Jones back on just from you know just because of what we saw him doing. He's cheap on DK. The only other quarterback that I have is Caleb Williams. I just the upside is there for Caleb. I know that they kind of shit down their leg in the second half, and Minnesota took advantage of it. But I do think that there is a bright spot for the Chicago Bears. As much as it pains me to say that, there is a bright spot at the quarterback position. He looked good for 3 quarters.
Yeah, I think he looked. I think he looked good for 3 quarters. I said that on Monday. Like I'm sorry. I said that on Tuesday night's live stream, and I thought he looked good. For the most part, like you said, right? I do think he's viable when you look at his price and his upside. He showed his wheels off against the Vikings, so it's something to take note of. Daniel Jones was going to be one that I talked about because I was on him last week. I liked him a lot last week. I thought it was a good, spot to exploit. My concern is this is a tough matchup, like really tough matchup, and I'm not sure where do you have ownership as far as Jones is concerned? Because I'm looking at him now, and I have him in that 6% range, which seems low for his performance last week. I wonder if people are taking note of the matchup, but if he's chalky, I'm out. I will be temporary expectations this week, regardless, when it comes to Jones. And I said that in my season long content. Like, I would add him in super flex leagues, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm rushing and plugging them in, depending on your situation. But I do have some concerns. So I just wanted to I wanted to pick your brain as far as do you have those same concerns, like when it comes to the matchup here for Jones against Denver?
I think the biggest thing is, as I mentioned, he does have Tyler Warren, who is a mismatch problem underneath,
Yeah.
and he is a guy that could just get open at any point on the field. He also has a very good run game, which is, he didn't have that combination of a good run game and a guy that can be like that check down, if you will, that is always open. He didn't have that in New York. So this is a different Daniel Jones that has different weapons. I have him at under 4% ownership. And again, I think the upside, just his ability to escape, is key here.
Yeah, I do think he has the tools to to outperform that matchup and at that cheap price. And then the other quarterback I wanted to kind of pick your brain on, Mac Jones starting for Brock Purdy. Mac Jones' minimum price. We have to talk about that situation because when you have a min price starting quarterback, you discuss the situation. Are you in or are you out on Mac Jones this week?
I'm out.
I'm not sure if we're being honest. Like I don't think if I only do one lineup, he's not going to be in that lineup, right? But if I run multiple lineups, he might. In cash games, do you take that discount, like, or do you just say no because there's such a low floor this week? Like, in cash games, do you
Uh,
take the discount or no?
yeah, I think you do.
Okay.
I think you
Yeah,
do.
I just wanted to pick your brain on that because I think that's a question a lot of people are going to have. I don't think
Right.
I'm going to end up there myself, but I wouldn't completely rule him out of the player pool this week. If you're looking to go with a very cheap quarterback, it's a good matchup, the Saints. My only concern about Mac Jones is he's not going to have to do much because even though they're shorthanded, and that's another thing that's concerning, right? He's not going to have Kittle. Is dinged up. Like there's a bunch of injuries there, so
Yeah,
doesn't have a,
if you don't lock Christian McCaffrey this week, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, well, that's our segue right there to jump to the running back position, right? So enough of Mac Jones. Let's jump to the running back position. I think it's pretty clear that the guy you want to roster this week is Christian McCaffrey, right? Like I think it's tough not to roster Christian McCaffrey this week, and this is coming from someone who is not investing him in season-long leagues. It's not, but you're talking about 32, no, I'm sorry, 30, yes, 32 opportunities, like 32 opportunities in week one. He had, it was double digit opportunities inside the 20-yard line in week one, right? He and Josh Allen were the only two players with 8 rush attempts inside the 20-yard line. And then he had, McCaffrey also had three targets inside the red zone. So 11 opportunities inside the 20-yard line. At 7,500, that's tough to pass up on, right? Because you know where the football is going this weekend. Like we all know where the football is going. The only thing is if he misses the game, he gets injured. That's the only thing. Like, but the touches are going to be there. Do I guarantee production? No, I'm never going to guarantee production. But I'd be stunned if he doesn't have 20 touches in this game. Like stunned. And you got a Saints
Uh-huh.
defense that I think you could say is as equal. I think the Saints and Miami are competing for the two worst teams in the NFL right now, right? And you got McCaffrey, who's at 7,500. He should easily be over 8K given his usage. For me, he's a core play. For me, he's a staple of the lineups, cash, GPP, wherever it is you're playing. I don't care what the ownership. Are you on the same boat?
The first sentence in my article says, if Christian McCaffrey doesn't see 25 touches again, it would be surprising.
There you go. I mean, there you go. There's just for me, I don't see how you like. I just don't see how he's not in your player pool. I
No,
don't see it. Like, I don't care how popular he's going to be. 7,500. Like, he's not even the most expensive running back this week.
no, no.
And he had 32 opportunities.
What is king? What is king?
Opportunities are king, ladies and gentlemen.
Volume
That's
and
why I said at the
opportunities
beginning
are
of the
king.
show. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, like, listen, opportunities. So we both are on board with just slamming the all-in button on McCaffrey this week. Like, and I think that that's not a secret. I don't think that's a surprise. It's not going to be sneaky. I'm okay with that. We'll find sneaky elsewhere. What other running backs upwards of 6,500 are you in? And these are the running backs for those who don't know who's there. So we got Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, McCaffrey, Gibbs, Achane, Brown, and Taylor, and James Conner, all upwards of 6,500. There's a few guys that I'm interested in this range, but where are you at in this range?
So my part of my two guys in my Roses royalty is McCaffrey and Chase Brown. Again, volume is king. I'm going to chase a guy that's playing 75% of the snaps, that's involved in the pass game and the run game, 23 touches in week one. I'm going to chase that every single time under 7K. I don't give a shit. I will die on that mountain.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys. So Chase Brown, I love Jameer Gibbs. Another guy, what do you have? 20 touches, 10 targets. He caught 10 of 10 targets. Another guy in the pass game, which I fully expect that game to shoot out between. His ownership is at 4% right now. That's what I see.
And this is why I don't want to pay for the quarterback position, if we're being honest. Like,
No.
this is precisely why, because I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%. But go ahead,
Yeah.
continue.
So I have two guys that are probably going to be popular. One being Derrick Henry. It's hard to fade a guy like Derrick Henry. It's hard not to like put him in your player pool. James Conner again. I do think Trey Benson looking better in the run game does hurt him a little bit, but I am more on the passing game. But I wanted to add him in here. And then I think the guy that's getting overlooked big time is Kyron Williams. Uh, it looks like a tough spot against Tennessee, but RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins look good running the ball against that defense. At 6,300, again, a guy that's going. He played like 93% of the snaps, almost every single snap he played. So again, volume is king. If I could play four running backs this week, I would. But you already know my two locks, as I said, with Chase Brown and CMC. My third one's going to be either Kyron or mix it up with Jameer Gibbs. That's where I'm
I'll,
going with flex.
I'll tell you this, like, I think it's a three running back week. I will say that,
100%.
right? I am fully on board with you when it comes to Chase Brown. Like, you cannot overlook the volume there. He's going to continue to get it there. You mentioned Jameer Gibbs, 19 opportunities. Like, there's something in common with all these guys. Like, he struggled last week, right? Like, he caught passes, but he struggled running the football, is what I'm saying. Like, he struggled running the football. There, he had 19 rushing yards. Yes, he had the 10 carries, but he only had 30 run. I mean, 10 catches, but he only had 30. Like, he had a total of what? It was 50 yards, but he just had 10 receptions. That helped him propel him to 15 fantasy points. You didn't roster him for 15 fantasy points last week, though. Like, that's not what it was. So he definitely didn't meet expectations. I think it's a great bounce back spot. We kind of saw the Vikings run well against the Bears, right? Like, Mason looked like a fucking animal. Like, he did. I was very impressed with what I saw from
That's a
Mason.
nasty 1-2 punch, and I'm not being biased. That is a nasty ass 1-2 punch.
Dude, absolutely. Like, I said that. Like, I absolutely love what I saw from Mason. Like, to me, he was running the ball really well. And then you got Jones, who made that touchdown catch that I quite frankly don't think Mason would make, right? Like, I don't think he's that kind of running back. He's
No,
not that dynamic. So, like you
no.
mentioned, a great 1-2 punch. I see this being the exact situation the rest of the season. It's not going to change. Um, you mentioned James Conner. I mentioned it before, like when we were talking about Kyler and Harrison and whatnot, that if you don't invest in the passing game, you want to be invested in, the rushing attack. I love what I saw from James Conner. I do think Benson will be involved, but so long as Conner's healthy, I do expect him to see upwards of 15 opportunities per game. And his price tag, 6,600, I think that's fine. 15 to 7 opportunities, I think that's fine. Couldn't agree more with you about Kyron Williams. He's just a volume-based guy. Like, that's it. When you look at Kyron Williams, he's a volume-based guy. He's someone that's going to get opportunities in the red zone. He's someone that's just going to dominate the opportunities out of that backfield there. So I'm on board with you. The other guy here that I absolutely love is Brees Hall. Like, I absolutely love Brees Hall. There was so much concern about him going into the season and what Braylon Allen's role was going to be and all that nonsense. And I hope it's put to rest in a competitive game against a very tough defense. The Jets said, fuck that. 23 opportunities for our guy, Brees Hall. He delivered with 107 rushing yards. He caught two passes. That's here to stay as well. I'm not at all concerned about Braylon Allen until Brees all price goes up. I'm going to continue and continue and continue to roster him. I did not roster him last week because I was concerned about the matchup. When you have a talent like this getting this kind of usage, forget the matchup, roster that. And for me, GPP, and this is why I do think it's a three running back week because this is just the 6K and above guys. Like, there's still some guys sub 6K that to me are very appealing as well. So I'm in, and for me, it's going to probably be a combination of, you know, Gibbs, McCaffrey, Hall, like, with sprinkled in with Brown. Like, three of these four guys, 4 or 5 guys, but we're going to talk about some of the cheaper guys. But man, I absolutely love this range of running backs. I think there's so much to like here. And even though some of them don't have great matchups, again, I'm going to be chasing volume. And some of these guys that we talked about, the volume is here to stay. I don't see it any other way. Gibbs might not have 10 targets this week, but he'll make up with it for some extra rushing attempts. Remember, you have to think about game environment and game script for last week for the team. And that's why he was very much involved like that in the passing game. And someone who always will be involved in the passing game as well. All right, let's talk about 6K and below here. And for me, there are a couple guys that stand out. I like ETN at
Yeah.
5,700. I like Swift at 5,700. Swift didn't have a great game last week, but he had 22 opportunities. We saw the Jaguars lean heavily on ETN last week, and they shortly after traded Bigsby away. So now we know it's ETN's backfield. There's no denying it. He had 19 opportunities last week. I'm in on both of these guys at sub 6K. None of them are core plays for me, but if you're looking for volume at sub 6K, I think this is the wheelhouse I'm in. What are your thoughts on any of these guys here?
Yeah, I think the trade of Tank Bigsby, it did send a signal here that it's going to be, which I'm surprised about with how good ETN looked. He looked explosive. He looked good in the pass game, and he looked like that running back that came out of Clemson like years ago with the high expectation. He looked good. Um, the most frustrating shit that happened last week was the Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet split. I don't know what's going on with that. That was so frustrating to see Charbonnet get those red zone carries. So I'm out on the Seattle side. Um, I think guys like um, Tony Pollard, who looked great running the ball, but I think the guy that I like the most here, and it's crazy, is going to be Dylan Sampson at 5,200. Being that involved in the pass game, catching all eight of his targets, and I mentioned this. This is a weapon. This is what Joe Flacco likes to do. He doesn't stretch the ball down the field anymore. He just takes what the defense gives him, and it's dump off, dump off, dump off, dump off, and then a 25-yard completion to Cedric Tillman. Dylan Sampson in a PPR, whether it's DK or in your seasonal, I think he has like a 12-point floor, especially in this matchup where they're going to have to throw.
So he's the one player that I feel it's the opportunities are smoke, right? Like I don't believe in it, but I will say this: if there's a game where he's gonna get opportunities like that again in the passing game, it's this one because Baltimore is gonna. I think Baltimore is gonna come out here and put a whooping on the Browns, right? Like I truly
Yep.
do believe that. So like this would be the week. But I've been telling everyone in season one, like sell high because I do think this backfield becomes a fucking mess very soon. And once they make a shift at quarterback too, I think that there's going to be a really I think the offense is going to get worse. Like when you make a shift at quarterback, it's supposed to get better. I think it'll get worse in Cleveland here, if we're being honest. So I look at this as a short-term solution. Um, but yeah, he's the one guy I don't want to chase. Like I get it, and I do agree with you. I think there's going to be opportunities in the pass game. We had eight catches last week, if I'm not mistaken. So like, or eight targets last week. Um, so yes, I do think he's going to be involved in the pass game. But that's the one player I don't want to chase. Like he's one that I don't want to chase in week two. But I do understand the play, and I don't disagree with you. Where I do think that they're going to have to pass here. Like I do think that they're going to have to pass. I might get my exposure from someone else in this contest. There's one guy, he's even cheaper than Samsung. He's not in this position though. We're gonna go somewhere else. And no, he's not a tight end. So don't let's not start with the tight end talk here. Um, any other running back though, and I agree with you. Okay, and I'm gonna spend 1 minute on this on Seattle because for me it's quick. Tyler pointed this out on Tuesday, and I went back and double checked everything, like and kind of rewatched things, and I didn't when I saw it, it didn't hit me. But when Tyler mentioned it, I'm like, oh shit. So if you look at the beginning of this game, the first possession that Walker was in, it was four downs out. Then the second possession he was in, it was a three and out. The two
Yeah.
drives that Charbonnet was in for in the early in that first half of the game, they extended. I'm not saying that that's the reason, but he was in extended drives, whereas Walker was in there when there was three and outs, right? And Walker actually had one more opportunity than Charbonnet. Like, look, at the end of the day, yes, Charbonnet was the one that scored. Charbonnet looked better. There's no denying any of that stuff. That's okay. But I think Walker's going to be just fine. I wouldn't panic, but without question, Charbonnet is going to be involved as well. Like this is what like this is part of what this backfield is. They're going to use both of these running backs. Charbonnet's talented, like we know that. So I didn't expect. I think if Ken Walker would have scored last week, would have been having a different conversation, right? Like I think most people wouldn't panic, but I think that's what happened there. Wouldn't place too much emphasis on that right now. Let's move on to the wide receiver position and. I think it's time to go right back to Jamar Chase this week, man. Like, I don't know where you're at with him, but if you play him last week and he burned you with those 4.6 fantasy points, jump right back on. Like, jump right back on. Are you in or are you out this week?
I didn't even write him up. Didn't even
No?
write him up. No,
Oh, wow. So who
didn't
are you
even
paying?
write him up.
Are you
There's
paying
there's
are you
some.
paying up for anyone?
So the one guy, the one guy that I'm probably gonna pay up for if I get there is CD Lamb.
Oh, I
Love,
love him as well.
CD Lamb.
So here's what I have. Like I have pay up. The only one I'm not paying up for this week is Neighbors. Like
No.
I'm not a big I'm not a big fan of the matchup there. I know he can eat any corner, and this is one of those perfect examples of like play a good player in a bad matchup, right?
Yeah.
Um, but man, when I look at the rest of these guys, I look at St. Brown at 7K against the Bears. I'm intrigued. Their secondary is a little dinged up right now. Nakua is, I like him here as well. Like, just we're talking volume, right? Like, he's someone that you can't ignore. 11 targets last week. So, but I agree with you, man. CD Lamb is in just a smash spot. And what I like about him is, he played on Thursday night. He had 7 catches, 110 yards. That no one's really talking about him here. And this is a good matchup for him. So I'm
Tell
with
you
you,
right
man.
now, I'm not going over 6K at receiver.
You're not? It's
Nope.
going to be hard. Like it's going to be like to me I'm going to try to fit in Jamar Chase. It's going to be hard, but I am going to try to fit in Jamar Chase. I'm being 100% like if I have to choose one Bengal to play, it's him. I would choose him over Chase Brown because of the opportunity, like the running backs that we have. But I do like Chase Brown. We talked about it. But man, I feel like I feel like Chase could be that difference maker this week that wins you a tournament at lower ownership. Like where do you have him penciled in as far as your ownership is concerned? I kind of want to compare and contrast because
19. I'm at
you have him
19%.
at 19. Jeez. See, I have Higgins at 19 and I have Chase at 12.
Yeah, I have. Let's see. I got Higgins at 22.
Okay, so they're both going to be popular. So they're going to be a popular stack this week for sure. Um, Yeah, man, I absolutely love Chase, but I do like all of these guys. Like aside from Neighbors, the wide receivers in the 7 to the 7K up range, I think there are a lot of good spots here. And I think that's why it's going to spread the wealth. I have Lamb at 20%. There's one of these guys that's going to have to come in lower ownership than that, 100%. Which this is why I think it's going to be Chase because he's the most expensive one. But talk to me about Lamb. Where you at? Like I know you like him, but what do you got going on here with him?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is he saw a 38% target share. And this is a defense that they can just fly through. And I'm just looking at my article, what I wrote. He's torched this defense before. Um, so I think this is a game where they're going to score back and forth, where he's going to have opportunities. And anytime that Dak is at quarterback, I think you can play CeeDee Lamb. I think not having him as his crutch, where he just plays awful, not awful, he just doesn't have the opportunity. So whenever Dak is in there at quarterback, and at this price tag, I mean, the price tag right now is what under price tag is at 7,800. Anytime under 8K, it's just a good spot for CeeDee Lamb and opportunities.
I agree 100%, man. I think he's one of the best receivers in football, and you're getting a slight discount on him, right? So like, why not? I like the matchup, like you mentioned. So yeah, I'm in on him. I do agree with you. It is going to be very difficult to fit in multiple of these guys, maybe even one of these guys, but I think we can manage. Just don't pay up at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
That's all. All right. So if once we drop down below 7K, I think there's a lot of appealing options here. Um, Garrett Wilson, right? In tournaments and games, wherever, whatever you want to call them, in contests that I'm not playing Brees Hall, I think I will end up with Wilson in my lineup. I absolutely love what I saw from him last week. He had 9 targets, 95, 7 catches, 95 yards, a touchdown. Just looked very good with aside from that last, pass that Fields put on, gave to Wilson that he took a big hit. Aside from that, it looked good between the two. The chemistry was good. Um, I like the matchup better here this week. A game that I think they're going to be playing catch up here. So I do think there's just going to be some opportunities. So he's one of those receivers in sub 7K range that I'm very interested in this week. What other receivers in this range are you interested in, bro?
None.
None? You're not interested in no receiver here. So not Brian Thomas
I can
Jr.
make a case for Brian Thomas Jr. I
Okay.
can.
Okay.
I can
Let's
make.
make that case. Let's
He'll
make
be.
that case.
He will be in my player pool as probably my favorite. That's I didn't write up. But again, the 6K and below, there's a lot of volume for these guys, and it's almost like shooting fish in a barrel here with some of these guys. I'm going right to the 6K range. We're going to go talk about 7 to 6. Jackson Smith and Jigba is probably one of my favorite plays on the slate. Freaking
Really?
absolutely love this spot for him.
Wow. All right.
Love
So
this
talk to
spot.
me about that. Talk to me about that because he's not one that's like, popping out for me, but I want to hear it because 13 targets is it's not anything to go overlooked, right? Like you should not be overlooking that. So talk to me about that. I really
Yeah,
want to hear it.
13 targets, a game that a defense just got torched by someone who's a good route runner, just like JSN. I do think this is a good spot, and I think Pittsburgh's going to score enough where Seattle has to come back and score. And you got to
Okay.
remember, whenever Darnold locks in on somebody, Darnold's going to lock on him all game long, every single time. Just look at the target share last year in Minnesota. He's going, and they really have no one else to throw to.
Listen,
It's almost like a singular passing game.
I can't dispute that. Like for me, you're right. Darnold does lock into players. He saw 13 targets last week. I think he's a floor play because of volume, right? Like I feel like there's a floor there. What was surprising to me, I'll be honest, I don't know if you know this, but he barely lined like he didn't line up out of the slot as often as he's normally doing. I think it was less than 30% out of the slot last week, which was odd given, his role the first 2 years in the NFL. So he did well in that role. I think the volume is here to stay. Still hesitant, right? Because of the match. But yes, you're right. I think the volume is going to be there. Someone that I'm going to dig deeper in here because I do think maybe you could find something there. At 6K, I think you can make a strong case for him. I like Cortland Sutton as well as 6,300. I think the volume is there for him. I think this the passing game needs to bounce back here for Denver. He had a good game last week. So I'm interested I mentioned Brian Thomas. Like I'm going to be in on Brian Thomas if you're stacking the Jaguars. I think it's a good matchup there. You look at Cincinnati and they're not a good defense. I think they're going to be playing from behind. If we're being honest, I think Jaguars are going to be chasing points here. I do think that this game could be somewhat high scoring, so I don't mind it. Thomas very much involved last week. Like you have mentioned it. You were in on him, 11 targets last week. So Oh, I'm sorry, 7 targets. He had 11 yards. It was 11 yards, one reception, but he had 7 targets. So I'm in. I'm in on him there. Some other guys in that sub 6K range here that I'm interested in. Marvin Harrison. I mean, can we talk about him? I know you're in. I know that's your guy, but talk to me about Marvin Harrison. For me, he's going to be a staple of my lineups again. He was a staple of my lineups last week, and I think until he goes upwards of 6K, for me, he's just someone that's just going to kind of be rotating in my lineups.
Yeah, just I don't know how you fade that price tag at what 5,800. Just the opportunities. Probably see a lot of J.C. Horn, which is not the best matchup, but I do think this is a spot where, again, I think it's going to be game flow for me too. I see Carolina scoring in this game. I see Arizona going back to back, and it's just a good spot. He's one of my three guys that is in my Rose's royalty for wide receiver. It's him, JSN, and Ricky Pearsall. So you know, taking all
Okay.
these NFC West wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky Pearsall, there's not many options in San Francisco. He's one of those options, bro. So I think I do agree with you. I think 5,300, he's going to see plenty of opportunities there. Um, I'm interested in a couple other guys. These are more tournament plays. So I think George Pickens is a good tournament play. Like I feel like he has that ceiling, that immense ceiling at sub 6K. Um, Not someone I'm going to be overly invested in by any means, but I'm looking at it from a tournament perspective, low own, and a lot of ownership is going to be on Lamb. And if Pickens is the one that gets one of those touchdowns that I do expect Dak Prescott to throw this weekend, I think it's a good leverage play there for the ownership. I wanted to pick your brain on Devontae Smith. I kind of am interested in him here. I think this is a good spot. Um, where are you at with him? He's sub 6K, and I think that the role in the offense is solidified. Yeah, it didn't work out in week one. He only had three targets, but I think his numbers are much better than that. And I think in general, like if you're looking at this offense, it's interesting because AJ Brown also like they underperformed in week one. And I feel like those are two guys that can go under the radar here this week.
I just want to be completely like honest. I don't ever play Devonta Smith
Yeah, you
ever.
don't like him, huh?
No, he's just one of the guys I feel like there's more miss than hit, and I can never get him right. I've never been able to get him right. It's just a guy that I pretty much fade all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately, because I know there's opportunities where they need to get this passing game going on. They need to get this passing game, and it's a good spot where they should have the passing game. I just think they leave now. Dallas Goddard is out because he is questionable. I will say I could get to there. I really only get to him if guys are out.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to view it, right? Because his role is not consistent on a week to week basis. Like over the course of the season, he does do well, right? And he has some big moments, but his role can be volatile sometimes. Like, in certain games he's phased out or whatnot. Like we've seen that from him multiple times throughout his career. So he does come volatility, which is why I said like him and Pickens to me are two. Because I do expect Pearsall to be popular. I do expect, JSN to garner some ownership. So these are pivot plays here in this range. Um, any thoughts on McMillan? I know you're Ted McMillan. I know you're kind of interested. I think you were interested in him last week, if I'm not mistaken. He had pretty good showing. Any interest here in a game that you think that they could be chasing points, or is he not in the player pool this week?
He's in the player pool. I just don't think I'll get there. There's other guys in that $5,400 range. 9 targets, which is great for a rookie in his first game. He'll be in the player pool. I just don't know if I'll get there. There's one guy that's cheaper than him. Two guys that's cheaper than him that I really like more.
Well, talk to me about those guys because I got a couple of guys in this range as well that I'm interested in.
So one being Hollywood Brown.
16 targets,
Yeah,
100%. I
I
don't
don't know.
expect that again, but I do expect what, 8 to 10 targets pretty easily.
I feel like this is the Egbuka play last week. I think this is the one where you just don't think it and play it.
I
This is a game where they're going to have to throw. Philly's going to score. Philly's going to score. They're going to have to throw it. And if Xavier Worthy's shoulder is not good, where they're going to have to like put in, what the hell is his name? The others.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah. If you're going to play Juju, there's no way. He could have 20 targets.
Yeah, he could be in for I'm
So
gonna
he's
I'm gonna keep an eye. Yeah, because when you look at with it, I'm gonna keep an eye. I'm putting up the news. Yeah, so Jalen Royals hasn't practiced. He was someone that I was keeping a very close eye on the injury reports. He hasn't practiced, so I as of Thursday. But I agree with you, man. You look at this situation, I think Brown is going to lead the way with targets here. I think they're going to involve their tight ends as well. I assume based on what you said, you're out on Juju at 4K, right?
yeah, no way. There's a 4K receiver. There's a receiver in the 4K range that I like. Two of them.
All right, so yeah, there's two as well for me as well. I'm with you on Marquise Brown. Like I feel like at 5,200, you take the volume. View him more as a floor play than a ceiling play, though. I'll be 100% transparent. I don't view
I
a
get it.
massive ceiling here. For me, it's more of a floor play because of the volume. So keep that in mind. Um, I'm not going to. I want to, but I'm not going to chase Cam Coleman just yet. I do think, though. I do think that's here to stay. I think he's going to emerge as that number one guy. But this is not the matchup I want to target for him this week. But right below him, Stephon Diggs, 5K. Listen carefully. I'm going to be playing Patriots receivers this week. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to keep an eye on Kayshon Boutte, see what his
If
situation
he's
is.
out, big bump.
If he's out, he gets a big bump. If he's out, Demarius Douglas is intriguing to
Yep,
me.
yep.
I'm going right back to Hunter Henry. We're not talking tight ends yet, but I'm going right back to Hunter Henry. So I'm very bullish on New England this week, obviously. But Stephon Diggs to me is very intriguing because he's that 5K receiver that you look at. He reminds me of Michael Pittman last week, where we're like, no one's really talking about him. No one's really, and one that could just completely carve up this secondary, right? And I get it. Like, it's not like he had a massive role, but he had 7 targets, 6 catches. Listen carefully, 5K. I think he's going to exceed expectations here, especially if Keishon Boutte is out here. So keep an eye on that news. I think that's very important. You and I do Sunday show, so we'll be talking about that Sunday morning, Chris. But for me, very intriguing piece here. Who else in this sub 5K or 5K range are you intrigued by? Because you mentioned you have a couple of guys.
Yeah, first one was the guy that we loved last year, Cedric Tillman.
Yes.
Just a guy that could stretch the field. 18% target share last week, 5 for 52 and a touchdown. Now you got to remember, 21 of those targets, 21 of his 45 attempts went to Dylan Sampson and both tight ends. I don't think that happens as much this week. So I do think that Tillman's going to get a little bit more of a target share this week. And the other guy, I think he's a complete misprice because when he's healthy, he's arguably a top 10, top 15 receiver. That's Chris Olave. Don't watch the game because that motherfucker goes to the blue tent more than anybody in the league. But I think Chris Olave at 4,900 is a freaking steal.
So I absolutely love both of those calls, right? I mentioned it before. I'm not playing Samson. I have someone else that's cheaper than him. You mentioned you don't think that the target share, the volume is going to be where it was as concentrated where it was last week. I agree with you. I think it's going to be Cedric Tillman. I truly believe Cedric Tillman is going to have a big game. 4,300. Jerry Judy's already talking shit, so you know that they're going to put a fucking beating on Jerry Judy, and they're not going to they're going to suffocate that guy in this game, which means Cedric Tillman is going to get that fun coverage. And I think he pops off here. I absolutely love him this week as well. I agree 100% with you. I like the Olave call. 12 targets last week. 12 targets last week at
And he
4,900.
went to the blue tent.
And he went to the blue tent. Yeah. Yeah. And he went to the blue tent. Another guy at 4,900, Calvin Ridley. He looked really bad last week. I'm going to be honest with you, but I also think it's the matchup. You have a little bit of a better situation this week, and not 8 targets last game. I'm going to go 4,900. He's not a 4,900 receiver. He's just not. He's better than that, in my opinion. So I'm in on him here this week as a cheap option. Chris, anyone else in this range that you're looking at?
No, I don't think so.
I'll say
I,
this.
I'm
Go ahead.
I'm going to be heavily invested in some with probably the guys that I mentioned: Pearsall, JSN, Harrison Jr. Now you got to imagine I'm playing 3 running backs, so I only need 3 wide receivers. And again, I may end up getting into some Jamar Chase if I can afford him. I think that's pretty much where I'm going, though.
Well, we just talked about like we want to pay up at running back, so it's difficult to pay up for everyone, but there is good value here at the wide receiver position, which makes it, it makes it easier, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
One other situation I'm going to keep a close eye on, right, is the Giants situation. We know Malik Neighbors number one receiver, but Wanda Robinson's dinged up, as is Darius Slayton. He's dinged up too. But if Darius Slayton gives it a go, and Wanda Robinson does not, I think Darius Slayton could be a home run hitter in GPP. Super volatile, super volatile. There's no denying it. But 3,400, we just talked about trying to figure out things in tournaments only. He's someone that I would consider if Wandale Robinson is out. Now, keep in mind, Slayton is also dealing with a groin injury himself. Okay, so it's not like it's he is risky as they come, but that's why he's 3,400 as well. Anything else at the wide receiver position, Chris?
No.
All right, let's jump tight end. And you know the drill. We are always going to ask this question. Last week we said that we didn't want to pay for Bowers. He had a good game. That's fine. This week, are you paying up for McBride?
Hell no.
Yeah, I don't pay. I'm not paying up for McBride this week. He had a great, he had not great, but he had a good game last week. 6 catches, 61 yards, 9 targets. Solid game, solid performance, but it's not going to get you there at 6K at the tight end position. So we have him as the highest price guy. Then Kittle's out. Then the very next guy is Travis Kelce, 5K. Are you paying 5K or higher? There's two
No.
tight ends. No. All right. So where are you this week at the tight end position?
Tight end wise, I'm going back to my guy Juwan Johnson. He has no one to compete with Moreau and Taysom Hill still out. I'm just if you go back to his last 5 games with Spencer Rattler under center, it's just under a 20% target share. That includes 2 games where he had like 2 targets and 3 targets. I think in 3 of those 5 games, he had double-digit targets. So at what 3,600? What's his price tag? 3,500.
You're saying
30.
Juwan Johnson is sitting at 3,600.
Yeah, 3,600 for a guy that Spencer Rattler leans on a lot. I love the play. Absolutely love it. And then my other guy is going to be Tyler Warren, 4,500. Just he's just dynamic, man. Like he's not as dynamic as Trey McBride, but I just think he's like a young Travis Kelsey, like that you can put him in the backfield, you can run plays with him. I like both those guys. I'm probably not going to go anywhere outside those two guys.
Yeah, I am looking at it this week, and I'm kind of in that 35 or 36, really, 3,600 to 4K range. Tyler Warren would be the only one, and we talked about this last week, that mid 4K range that we liked. He would be the only one I think in that range that I'm looking at. Um, I for me, he's just I know the matchup against Denver is a tough one, right? But he is just so involved in the offense. He even ran a ball. And what impressed me the most about the rookie is he made some phenomenal blocks like that created some pretty big gains. And I said this on Monday's podcast. I said this on Tuesday night. And I'm saying it again. That impressed the shit out of me because he was out there not only making plays offensively, but blocking and helping his team out. So I agree with you, man. I think he's someone that's going to always carve out a solidified role here. Then for me, Hunter Henry, like 4K, like he's still cheap. He's very involved in the passing game. Like at the end of the day, we talked about him being a big part of this, 18% target share. I know it's not, it doesn't seem significant, but that's a good number there for a tight end. He's someone that I expect will continue to carve out a solidified role here. We saw what Warren did against Miami last week, right? Like they had no answer for him, like no answer for him. And I'm not saying Hunter Henry's as talented as Warren, but Hunter Henry's not a pushover. He's pretty good tight end. Um, so I'm in on Hunter Henry quite a bit. I like your Juwan Johnson call, man. Like at the end of the day, it's tough to ignore the usage, right? Like when you pull up the target share, you mentioned it was 27% target share. Tyler Warren had over 30% target share. And then Dallas Goedert. I want to monitor that situation. I think I want exposure to this Eagle because you mentioned they're going to score points here, right? Like I want exposure to the Eagles to a certain extent. Um, and Dallas Goedert, week one, led all tight ends in target share percentage, 35% target share. Like that's a significant number. It was only 7 targets. It was 35% target share. He's 3,800. No one, no one's going to be on him, right? No one's going to be on him. He's dealing with injury, so monitor. He's another one you could consider here in this week. And then the other guy, and this is why I love this kind of like 36 to 4K range, Jake Ferguson, right? Jake Ferguson here. He had 6 targets, 18% target share, someone that played on Thursday night. No one remembers what happened that day. No one's even looking at that. And I kind of like these tight ends, like that, these players that play on Thursday night, no one's talking about. So this is going to be my wheelhouse this weekend. Like, I'm not going to go up high. I'm not going to chase Fannin. I want to talk about that. Are you chasing? Because I think a lot of people are going to be going to Harold Fannin this week. I'm not. I'll tell you right now. I will if I miss and I'm out, that's fine. But I'm not a chaser, and I'm not fucking chasing that guy's performance. I do think it's real. I do think his role is going to be solidified, but I also don't think it's going to be as like the targets are going to be as concentrated every week with him. I think Njoku's going to have more of a role sometimes. I think Tillman's going to, take over some days. Um, where are you at with Fannie Mae? Because I think he's going to be like super fucking chalk.
I think he is too, but I did write him up just because I do think he's good. He's a good play. Njoku and Fannin both show that they can exist together in this lineup just because it is a pass funnel type of offense here. So I did write him up. I know he's going to be popular. I don't know if I'll only really get there if I really need the extra savings in salary and I don't play Cedric Tillman. I think that's really my only play.
So the two most popular plays this week at tight end from my projections right now are going to be Kelsey and Fanning, right? I rather eat the chalk with the more expensive Kelsey than I do with Fanning.
Yeah.
Um, I think Kelsey's interesting only because of the injuries there, right? Like, and I feel like someone has to catch passes. We talked about Hunter Brown, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, whatever you want to call him nowadays. But I think Kelsey would be involved as well, right? But for me, it's just you're really hoping for that touchdown with Kelsey. But yeah, if I'm eating chalk, it'd be with him over Fanning. But I agree with you. I think Fanning, when you look at it a point per dollar perspective, sure. I think in cash games you eat that chalk, right? But in tournaments, I think you could pivot. Like I think you could definitely pivot. Anything else? And Mark Andrews, that we didn't really talk about him. Like, do you at all any interest? No, right?
None.
I do think that his role is going to be bigger than what it was in week one, but I just can't. I can't take that risk in week two, given some of the players like in that price range. There. All right. And
Similarities to 2024 with him.
yeah, TD or bust, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I firmly agree with that. All right, let's talk defenses. And you know the drill, Chris. You and I usually go all the way to the bottom. You start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and then you finally hit that spot. Where are you at this week? Because I do think it's a little bit more challenging than what it was last week.
Yeah, this week is tough, man. Like this week is really tough trying to figure out. I stopped. I stopped a couple times. I stopped at $2,500 Chicago Bears.
I
Don't
like
know.
that.
I don't know if I'll get there though. The game's in Detroit. I don't know if I trust that. I stopped at 2,600 Colts. Bo Nix looked awful last week. So there, but I think I'm kind of settling in like the $2,800 New England Patriots in Miami, just targeting an offense that's just bad right now. Just like call it what it is. I If Christian Gonzalez is in this week, I'll probably just hit the lock button. I don't know. I haven't seen anything on him yet.
Yeah, so you and I made a couple of the similar stops, right? Like I too stopped at the Bears. I think at 2,500, like I thought that was interesting. But then I'm like, I kept looking. I'm like, wait a minute. Where is New England? Like where I thought to myself, where the hell is New England? And I found them. I found New England 2,800. That's where I'm going to be at. Like this offensive line, I mentioned it. The offensive line is a problem. It's going to
Yeah.
continue to be a problem. It was obvious last week. Tua had no time, right? And he was under stress and then under pressure, all that stuff. I don't see that changing. I truly don't see that changing this week. It's not like they can just overnight create a new offensive line. It's the same pieces. And I think it's going to be the same issue here. New England 2,800, that's where I'm at. I'm going to continue to pick on this offensive line and continue to pick on this offense. Eventually, I do think they blow this thing up and they, start selling pieces and it's back to rebuilding Miami. I think that's where we've landed right now. And I think that this is going to continue to be a place that we want to pick on here for DFS, for fantasy, for whatever you want to call it, right? So I'm with you, man. For me, it's I stopped at New England. Yes, you can make cases for the higher price guys. Yes, Baltimore didn't play well, but they got Cleveland. You can make a case for them. They're a good defense. You can make a case for Arizona against Carolina. Like there's so many cases you can make. But for me, I'm just going to take the discount and go with the 2,800 there. F New England. Um, Chris,
Gonzalez is out, is already out, has been ruled out for week two already.
yeah, and even but that doesn't really matter, right? Like I
No,
don't think that matters. So, for me, I'm in on that this week, Chris. Let's talk survive. Oh, anything else at defense before we jump to Survivor? And I think you might have a bet there, don't you?
yeah, I mean, I think for defense, just find someone that fits. To
Yeah,
be
I
honest with you.
that's what I'm doing too, man. And I don't think you have to ever feel the need of paying up for defense here. All right, let's talk survivor pool. And I think there's one team above all. I think that most people are going to be leaning on. But where are you at with survivor pool?
Survivor in my league, I actually took Dallas this week against the Giants, and I also
Dallas or the
took them at
Giants?
-4.5 at home in Jerry's World. I think they come out and just dominate this game.
I like it. I like it. I think it's risky, but I like it. I look for me, the obvious is Baltimore, right? I feel like that's the obvious survivor pool pick. I'm the type of person that early on I like to be conservative and I like to hold off on on taking a lot of risk. which means sometimes I'm going to take these teams that I could be using later on.
Mhm.
But I want to be playing later on. So I think Baltimore is obviously chalk, but it's safe. And then the other team I have interest in is Arizona. Like if you didn't use them last week, we talked about using them last week. If you didn't use them last week, I think Arizona is very interesting for me. Um, they're a team that I think is far superior than Carolina. It's that simple. I think they're going to win here. I think they're going to, dominate, and I'm okay with taking that. If you don't want to use Baltimore this week and you didn't use Arizona last week, I think they're a team you could consider here this week. Chris, any thoughts on either of those two? I know, or any thoughts on going chalk early on in these survivor pools and kind of avoiding risk, and then any thoughts on those two picks?
Yeah, definitely early in the season, take the chalk, take the guys that, take the teams that are, double digit favorites that Baltimore is. I would either have gone Baltimore or if I want to stay conservative, Baltimore or Buffalo. I think either one is a fine choice.
All right, talk to me about the bet you have going on over there.
So the bet that I have right now is Dallas at -4.5. Um, I'll have more probably Sunday once I kind of dig into some player props. I was close to really hitting a player prop last week. It was a pretty big leg though, but I like Dallas -4.5 at home, and I also like India +1.5 at home.
Indy plus 1.5 at home. I like it. I like that a lot. I'm going to go New England taking a point and a half here at Miami. I think New England outright wins this game. For me, I just, you're getting a point and a half because you're on the road. That's really what it is. I think Vegas, I think we can all agree. In my opinion, New England's the better team here. So I'm taking that point and a half against Miami, and I'm taking New England with a point and a half there. Chris, anything else on this slate? Anything we didn't discuss that you want to discuss before we jump off here?
Nope. I'm going to go through my article one more time on things that we talked about and kind of add a couple guys that you spoke about. But I already have my core four. I actually have a bonus core five this week. And my article is probably 98% of the way done. It's just kind of just making sure that, you know, if anything changes from now to Sunday morning.
I
Uh,
don't know if you want to give that core today or if you want to wait till Sunday morning.
let's wait. Yeah, let's wait till Sunday morning.
Yeah, I'll say my thoughts on this is I have several building blocks that I want to build around. We talked about some of the offices. Like I think definitely McCaffrey's someone I'm going to build around. He's chalk, and that's okay. I definitely want exposure to the Jets. I think we know where their opportunities are going. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then I would say for me, it's a three running back week. It is a three running back week given the pricing, given the matchups and stuff like that. So that would be my final thoughts here. Don't overthink week one, ladies and gentlemen. Like as far as production efficiency is concerned, focus more on that volume, focus more on the opportunities and the snaps. All of that is very important. That can carry over into week two, and then we could see that production here, Chris. Why don't you let everyone know? You mentioned that article a bunch of times. You drop it every Saturday. To me, it's a must read. If you're playing DFS, it's a must read each and every week. Me when I'm in my Saturdays and I'm going through my process, part of my weekly process. I always tell you that I love the article, always great stuff. So talk to everyone, let them know where they can find it, where they can find you, what you got cooking, what you got coming out, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we have the college football live stream tonight at 9 p.m. And then I will drop my this article tomorrow. Usually is up around 6 p.m. And then I also have the night slate on DK for the college football slate, which is usually like the West Coast team. So a lot of football. This is how it's going to be for the next 4 months. Football Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you can also check me out on X at Chris_R1212 as well.
Yes, sir. Make sure you're checking out all of Chris's work, ladies and gentlemen. It's great stuff. He does a great job there with the college football. He does baseball, NFL, a little bit of everything. He has his hands in a little bit of everything there. So make sure you're checking out his work. It's always good information there. And of course, you can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com as well. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Armando Marsal. I got the Sunday live stream, 11 a.m. Eastern time there with Chris Rose. Him and I will be going game by game. We'll have all of the updated news and information that we need to prepare for that Sunday slate. So make sure you're checking that out. I'll have my weekly recap usually posted overnight on Sunday. So make sure you're checking that out. Next week, I have a special guest. Bob Harris will be joining me to break down and recap the week. So make sure you tune in for that next episode here. For the great Chris Rose, I am Armando Marsal. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, you enjoyed this week's journey through the mind of Marsal. Until next time.